What's going on, y'all? You know what that is by the title of the video. Today we're here to truly figure out if Kid is a fraud. So I'm going to get right into it. As we see in chapter 1079 of One Piece, Kid and Killer are destroyed by the Shanks' divine departure, and then we see the Giants hit the Hakaku sovereignty to end it off. Dorian Bravi seems to be referencing chapter 1 where Lucky Roo blows that guy's head off and Shanks is like, yo, like, you can't be pointing at these things at people because they're not toys. You know, when you do that, people are playing serious. So that really, in my opinion, talks down on Kid, showing that Kid is playing with the big boys and Kid can't really be playing around the way he has been. So this moment kind of reminds me of like an anti-Sabaody moment where Kid is basically being decimated and it has to have a moment of realization of his weakness. But as we go further, I'll talk about this, but it seems that Kid has had many moments where he could have realized his own weakness, but he still hasn't. So I'm not sure if this would be the moment that he does. I don't know what the plan is for Oda for this character, but I guess we'll have to see in the future. But I'm here to dissect if Kid is a fraud based on what we've seen of him so far in the story. To truly dissect Kid, we have to start at Sabaody, where we first introduced the Kid in chapter 498. We see here the difference between Luffy and Kid. Kid understands how disgusting the Celestial Dragons are, but is unwilling to put his life on the line to attack them, unlike Luffy. Also, Kid's bounty is higher than Luffy at this point, but they are the two highest bounties in the Supernovas. Kid also has a right-hand man who's known as Killer, and Killer and Zoro are the two only right-hand mans in the Supernovas, kind of showing that Kid and Luffy are on par with each other. In the New World, we are reintroduced to Kid, learning that he lost the arm in a battle with the Red Hair Pirates. He defeats a Sweet Commander and gets a Poneglyph Rumbig from Big Mom, similar to what Luffy did in Whole Cake Island. And we see Kid again in Punk Hazard looking at Caesar's weapon, Smiley, but he's uninterested. At the end of the arc, we see that Kid meeting with Apu and Hawkins, forming an alliance to go after Shanks. Kid assumed Luffy and Law were going after Kaido since they took down Dofi, and in the post-Dressrosa arc, we see that Apu betrayed the alliance in an attempt to recruit Kid, Hawkins, and Killer to Kaido's army in 795. We next see Kid in a Wano country in a cell, having faced the same defeat as Luffy at the hands of Kaido. At this point, we see a pattern. Both Luffy and Kid defeated Big Mom's commanders and stole a Poneglyph, and both are seemingly defeated and recruited by Kaido. We see Kid and Luffy competing for pride on who's the strongest. Kid interjects in a conversation between Luffy and Caribou to say that he would be the one to take down Kaido for what he's done to him and Killer. We see a similar duality between Zoro and Killer, where they both have been outed as killers in the capital, but Zoro avoids the capital and Killer becomes a dog for Orochi as Kamazo the Manslayer. Zoro defeats Killer with his own scythe. Kid sees Kamazo and gets recaptured and brought to the prison with him. Together they go through torture. Kid turns down Luffy's offer to join the alliance, saying that he himself would take down Apu and Hawkins. On the day of the raid, Kid, Law, and Luffy take down a ship together, and Kid reaffirms that he'll be the one to defeat Kaido. At this point, Kid's revenge against Kaido is notable, as Kaido has imprisoned him, tortured him, mutilated his first mate, and Kid wants his revenge. During the initial siege of Onigashima, Apu attacks Luffy and Zoro, and Kid is able to land a Pump Gibson on Apu. I don't think it did much damage, but I think that's not enough revenge for the betrayal of Kid. During the initial siege of Onigashima, Apu attacks Luffy and Zoro, and Kid is able to surprise Apu and hit him with a Pump Gibson. I don't think it did much damage, seeing as Apu gets back up and continues to fight, and I don't think that is a suitable revenge for what Apu had done to Kid in the past, betraying him and basically putting Kid in this situation in Wano. After that one attack, Kid makes his way to the rooftop collecting metal all along the way to get ready for the fight on the rooftop. During the rooftop, Kid and Killer are the first to arrive on the roof. Law, Zoro, and Luffy are also on the rooftop, highlighting the biggest names of all the Supernova on the Alliance side. Kid makes a lot of jokes to Luffy and Law on the rooftop, actively scolding Law for being subservient to Luffy. This is the same part of the manga that loses me. For Kid, who didn't see himself as part of the Alliance, we see that during the battle, Kid's determination to defeat Kaido, Apu, and Hawkins has shifted, as after he sees that Luffy can damage Kaido, he shifts his focus to Big Mom as if to split them up. I would have thought that he would still want to try to take down Kaido for the sake of his own pride. Realistically, if the story if Kid's character was consistent, he would have tried to take down Kaido himself and pawn off Big Mom onto Zoro, Law, and Killer. After sending Big Mom off the rooftop, Kid and Killer chase Big Mom to see the birth of a new homie, Hera, and they both are attacked by a new attack called Fulgora. This sends Killer and Kid into the Skull Dome. Inside the Skull Dome, Kid and Killer run into Hawkins, and Hawkins is able to use his Devil Fruit ability on Kid. Killer decides to fight Hawkins and get the revenge for betraying their alliance. This fight reveals that Hawkins was envious of Kid and Killer because they had the guts to fight a destiny that would surely get them killed. Kid saves Usopp and Nami from Big Mom, and Law comes to help, and the two begin their fight with Big Mom. Meanwhile, Hawkins reveals that he has Kid in his trap, and any attack that he would take would only damage Kid. Similar to the situation with Orochi, Killer gives up and urges Hawkins to release Kid, and he would offer his own life because he cannot attack his captain knowing he'd kill his captain. This seems like a mirror image of what we saw with Zoro taking all the pain for Luffy. Instead, it's Kid taking all the pain for Killer. But Killer finds a way in the end. I felt like it was kind of like a reference, but not entirely. At this point, Hawkins says no and starts dealing self-damage to hinder Kid in his fight with Big Mom. Hawkins has an idea, Killer has an idea, and disarms Hawkins because Kid doesn't have a left arm. He undoes Hawkins' Devil Fruit ability and lives up to his name and kills Hawkins. Kid and Law fight Big Mom. In the post-Wano arc, we see Kid being cordial with Appu when he brings him the bounties. You would think Appu deserved a death sentence from Kid considering his betrayal, but he takes the bounties to Luffy to show him that he is a new emperor. Before the three pirates leave for Wano, they all pick a direction and Kid lets it slip that they need to meet the man with the burn scar. After the Egghead Island arc, we see that Kid has arrived in Elbaf and he's hell-bent on taking down Shanks. It doesn't seem like he wants revenge on his arm. He just wants to take down an emperor, maybe on his own, since taking down an emperor last time was with the help of Kid and the Alliance. We see that Shanks essentially one-hits Kid, and the Giants annihilate the ship, leaving Kid's current condition to be pretty bad. Now, assuming Kid lives, it's obvious that Kid is set up to look like sort of a Bellamy, a hothead, and he needs to feel like he's the shit and in a rush to get things done. Currently, I'm under the impression that Kid is in the market for a hockey bloom, similar to how Luffy, after getting hit by Kaido's Color of Conquerors attack, he learned to coat his own attacks in Color of Conquerors. Kid could be doing the same here. If somehow Kid lives, he could have learned something from the fight and he could come back into a training arc and come back stronger essentially later on in the story. But to answer the question, is Kid and subsequently Killer a fraud? The answer would have to be yes. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily because of what happened with Shanks. Now, as we know, the notion on Kid was pretty bad before this moment in Elbaf. We've had people say things about Kid like call him useless Captain Mid. You know, these are things that have been talked about throughout the entire Wano arcs, basically since he started fighting with Big Mom. And this moment was just kind of like the nail in the coffin, I would say. And it's because to me, I think the worst offender is basically what happened with Kaido. Kid never stuck to his word and got the revenge that he was looking for. He was basically manhandled by Kaido, Killer was mutilated, and forced to eat a smile. There wasn't even mention of it from Killer when he got to the island. He just gave Kaido to Luffy and moved on. There wasn't even mention of the fact that Kid felt like he couldn't fight Kaido himself. When he got to the rooftop, he never spoke about his revenge. He never spoke about how Kaido was gonna get it. Luffy basically was the leader and Kid was his follower. He never even spoke to Kaido, really. I think if Oda was writing consistently, Kid and Luffy should have both tag-teamed Kaido, at least for a little bit. Although Zoro had a similar thing saying he wanted to take down Kaido himself, Luffy is his captain, so Zoro leaving Kaido to Luffy makes a lot more sense than Kid leaving Kaido to Luffy, and Kid apparently wasn't in the Alliance, which obviously we know isn't true, as Kid basically was in the Alliance. Also, Zoro was able to permanently scar Kaido, which is a huge feat compared to Kid, who amongst all the supernovas seemed to do the least damage to Kaido. Zoro had to unlock a deeper power in order to defeat King, while Kid didn't try to go all out on Kaido and basically saved his power for a later moment in the arc to use against Big Mom. Fighting Big Mom doesn't hit the same way as Kid fighting Kaido because Kid never really expressed a dislike for Big Mom. But his history with Kaido really kind of pushed him into that direction, and that not happening, I think, really was a net loss for the character from a viewer perspective. By the end, Kid just came off as a tsundere, teasing Law for being Luffy's subordinate, but ignoring the fact that he was actually Luffy's subordinate as well. The thing with the Shanks mauling, that was bad, but it's Shanks. Like, what are we gonna expect? Shanks was left at this moment to be hyped up. But the whole thing with Kaido and Big Mom kind of left Kid in a position where he needed a W of his own, and unfortunately at this point not receiving it after all of these attempts, being shown over and over again to be somebody who loses, doesn't get his way, and is not able to turn a losing moment into a victory moment for himself, by himself. And I'm talking about shown, not being told. I think that overall left not just me, but with the fandom with this sense that Kid is kind of a fraud. He doesn't live up to the hype that, you know, a 3 billion berry man is supposed to. Let me know what you guys think. Is Kid a fraud? Is Killer a fraud? Can the Kid Pirates make it back? Please like, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. I really liked making this video, and this was the first kind of scripted video. This was like a semi-scripted video that I did, so let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys, take care.